Thank you all for joining us this morning, and this is going to be an amazing time to learn about AI and how artists can use their computers in a totally new and inspirational way. And what I want to do at this point is turn the meeting over to Umesh, who is going to give us all kinds of great info.
Yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the pictures that you're going to see in the slideshow today, most of them, or at least all of it, except maybe one of them, are all generated by AI. Okay. So this one was something that I asked the AI to create for based on the Four Seasons, all in one picture. And I think they did a decent job kind of portraying all four seasons in one picture, something that we all know is probably not realistic or not practical unless you actually do a lot of Photoshop. But this is the power of AI. You can generate these kind of images in an instant to serve as inspiration, to serve as a starting point, to serve as what you can expect AIs to develop, things that you can only imagine in your head, in your brain. One simple aspect that I want to bring into everyone before we start is the pace at which the progress in AI is happening. It's incredibly fast. Every day things are changing. If you don't look at it for a week or a month, then you come back, things are going to be a completely different state. There's going to be so many things happening on a daily basis. It's kind of important for you to be in touch on a periodic basis. So that's one of the things that you need to really be looking at. Okay. So today's agenda is kind of packed. We are going to have a lot of different things that we cover. I've broken down the sections into a number of chapters, and we are going to start with an introduction. We will write effective prompts. We'll go slightly deeper into advanced prompting, and it is kind of important for you to learn it. There is a specific chapter that I've created that targets photographers. And lastly, Midjourney is not the only tool. So we'll take a look at all the other tools out there, and then their pros and cons and their differences. So we'll break between each chapter. And the way we'll do it is I'll just cover basics, foundational aspects through PowerPoint slides. And if there's demos, I will go switch and conduct demos using this. And we will try to follow along as much as you can. And we'll make sure right in the beginning that everybody is on the same starting ground. You have your Midjourney up and running. When I'm doing the demos, I'll make sure that you can follow along and do the same kind of demos on your computer as well, right? So that's kind of important. And if you have any questions, or if you have any issues trying to follow along, send a chat note, or you can we can talk about it one-on-one at the breaks when we get, right? So we want to make sure at each of the chapters that everybody is at the same level and can follow along, because you're going to see the more you do this, the more you'll learn about it, and the more it's going to sound more exciting in that process. Okay. I'll have a basic introduction to start with. One of the first things that we want to do is, this picture again is something that the AI created. And the reason I'm showing you this picture is on the bottom of this, there is a text. There's a text that says line art of a bustling street in New York City with a black background. So that is what is a prompt. And that is the instructions that I gave the computer to create this picture. And there are nuances. You need to understand that it's not simply, saying go and create it. There are certain ways that you can instruct it and certain tweaks that you can do to make this image. But I think, it did a fairly recent reproduction of what you can imagine a bustling city in New York City would look like. And I think this is the indication for what we're going to do. So to start with, I want you to maybe, in your heads, or even write it down on your chat window. If you could spot the AI, because one of the pictures on this two pictures that you see is fake, is created by AI. The other one is a real picture. Take a mental note, observe very carefully between the two pictures and see if you can spot which one it is. I'll give you 30 seconds. You can write it in the chat if you want to, before I switch. I don't know how many of you got it right. So the one on the right was a real picture. The one on the left is an artificial created by the AI. This is another one. A or B? One of them is fake, the other one is real. So you could see, this is an exercise that I think is kind of important, because if you notice properly, your powers of observation comes into play here. You really have to know, for example, the picture on the artificial, the picture on the right, you could see a repeating pattern on the seats. On the picture on the left, looks like there's tarp covering up the boats. So this sounds like it looks like it's natural. So there are things that you have to see very carefully. And on a daily basis, things are changing. So this picture again, the picture on the left or picture on the right. The picture on the left was a fake, an artificial created by the AI. So there is a link on the bottom of these slides, and their link is also in the handouts. This is a very popular UK based publication, and they created this quiz, and I encourage you to go in and check it out later on. That gives you an idea about how much it is, how the AI is changing what we see today, and your powers of observation is actually very key and critical for how you observe natural things and interpret natural things. I was personally able to get 7 out of 8 images right, and I think Nancy was able to get I think more, all 8, right? So you need to. This is a way of one of the things for you to learn for understanding how to interpret images. And if the images look too good to be true, then it probably is artificial, right? And look for imperfections. Look for, plasticky skin textures. Look for anatomy differences. Computers are not 100% really great at describing anatomy. A person may have like 6 fingers, or may have like a hand coming out in the wrong place. You have to watch out for all of these. And person, I think, if you're looking at a crowd with a lot of feet in it, you may have an extra feet here and there. So you have to watch out, or you're not going to see it. Things also, for example, text is very difficult for the AI. So if there's any license plates, if there's any name of the shops or any text, look for imperfections. If it sounds to be, not a legible language, any kind of language, our brains can automatically interpret this, but unfortunately the computers cannot. So watch out for these. This is very important for you to do. So here is a sampling of images we did. The one on the left is, and the one on the right, the color photographs, was very simply, I asked the AI to generate a bunch of pictures taken in Cuba by nancyori. So the computer was able to automatically synthesize and analyze pictures of Nancy based on a number of pictures she has uploaded onto the websites, right, and shared it with the world. And the computers have analyzed her style and created all these pictures. And these were, all of these are artificial. None of them were created by her. And I think she actually did, confirm that, if she were to take pictures, this is the kind of pictures that she would take. And it's very uncanny of the computers to have analyzed styles of a person, of a photographer, and of an artist, right? So if you see the top right corner, the 4 images, they're of Michael Kenna, a very popular photographer who does these long exposure shots. And it has tried to synthesize the personality of this artist based on observing a number of different pictures, similar to how if you go to a museum and you walk around and you study the various different artists and their styles, and you come back and try to mimic it. That's where the AI is today. They can observe and analyze the styles of pictures and your paintings and your art, and can recreate them using the similar styles. And it's very important that we do that. It's a chat platform, and one of the things that early on Midjourney figured out was, hey, what if we create a bot, a robot that you can talk to, and it's an intelligent human being, artificial intelligence that you can talk to, and let it appear as a person that you're talking to. So that's what Discord allows us to do. Allows us to actually chat with an AI agent called Midjourney, and you're instructing the agent or the bot to do a number of things for you. So it's an automatic robot, like I'm showing you here. And again, the picture on the left is something that was created with this AI bot. And you can instruct this bot with a number of instructions, and that's is what is called a prompting, right? By default, Midjourney allows you to generate about some sampling of 25 images per month, and the quota expires after you finish 25. You can come back next month and do another 25. So there are some links in this slide, which is also in your handout. You can follow along if you need instructions for how to connect and how to log in again. So for those of you who've been following along and you got some samples, the pink watermelon Paul that you try to get going, the easiest way to interpret the output is, the numbers that you see on the right are the numbers of these 4 images. Every prompt that you produce, every instruction that you send to the computer, to the AI bot, results in 4 images being produced. And it's a completely random sequence, in the sense you can ask it to generate more or less. By default, it generates 4. And this is how you interpret them. The image are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. And the number and the sequence and the blue and the orange boxes, bounding boxes that I have, they correspond to these 4 images. So the U corresponds to upscale, so to scale up. So if you're increasing the resolution, so by default, each of these 4 images, they are 1024 by 1024 pixels. That's the default size of the images. If you want to produce a much higher resolution, scale it to 2x to 2048 by 2048, or you want to scale it by 4x, which is something like 8,000 pixels by 8,000 pixels. We can use the U1, U2, U3, U4 to scale the corresponding image. If you click on the button that says U4, you're upscaling the fourth image. And V corresponds to variations. What it means is, you generated a sequence of 4 images based on your initial prompt, but you want to see 4 more images of the same type. And you can click on V1, V2, V3, V4, depending on which one you like the most. And it generates 4 new variations of that image. And the little refresh kind of a circle button that you see on the right, that corresponds simply to regenerate these 4 images. You didn't like any of these 4, you're instructing the computer to go back and generate 4 more, right? So one of the first things that you have to understand is these images are completely random. They're unpredictable, meaning each time you type in the same exact prompt, if all of you, for example, typed in the same generate a pink watermelon, you're all going to get 4 random pink watermelon pictures, and none of your 16 images or 18 images that you have are going to be identical. You're all going to get 1 of 1 each time. And this unpredictable nature is what we can control, right? So, excuse me. You can control a number of different parameters, and you can define the predictiveness based on how well you construct the prompt. And that's where the advanced prompting comes in play. One other thing is, recently there was you must have read the news that somebody who won the first prize in one of the contests for submitting the AI images. They tried to copyright their image and were unable to. The USPTO refused to accept a completely artificially generated image for copyright purposes. So right now, none of the images you create using these AI technologies are copyrightable. We don't know if this is going to change in the future. It most likely may change or may have some nuances. But as of now, Midjourney is a tool that allows you to create these images. One of the things that they give you is a full right that you, as an artist who generated this image, owns all of the creator rights of this image, meaning you are allowed to commercially market and sell your image. You can generate your image, you can remix your image, you can send it to other people, you can print your image in any resolution, you can give it to anybody, you can put your name on it, it's yours. But you also, by automatically signing that TOS, which is our terms of service, you also grant Midjourney and its company perpetual non-exclusive license for them to use your image for marketing purposes, for retraining their databases, etc. There are some other nuances. You can exempt yourself from this if you're a corporation, if you're a big company, if you're a paid subscriber, etc. So there are things that that's available that you can do. So what you're looking at is a picture. When you created your prompt as get me a pink watermelon. It's easy. It's something that you saw 4 variations of it. And similar to that, if you type in blueberry pancakes, you're going to get something like the one on the left. One on the right, you could see on the bottom, that's a much more descriptive text, a prompt instruction that tells you, I'm looking for a commercial photography of a very specific kind of blueberry pancakes with studio lighting, with hyper detailed, with all these extra things, shot from a specific kind of a camera, shot from a specific kind of a lens. The more granular and detailed you are, the better you're going to get, right? So that's what I'm trying to show you here. You have to be very explicit, very detailed. You have to ask what it is. So it is like, in a sort of way, you're describing your vision that you see in your head to a blind person. And that's what a Mid-Journey bot is. Imagine that person, the Mid-Journey bot is blind, and you're trying to describe what you're seeing in your head to that person. And the more descriptive you are, the better the image is gonna be that meets your image in your head, in the one you're imagining. There are some nuances. We're gonna cover that, but essentially, for the time being, understand that you need to be very descriptive in what you expect your image to look like, and that's what it's gonna look like. So, for those who are following along, maybe copy paste. I have 3 examples here. Come up with, copy paste them, change it, modify it. Feel free to try your own. What you see here is something called a word cloud, and these are all very important keywords. So innovate. Essentially, what you do is take a look at some of these words that you see here, and come up with an English sentence that you can create from these kind of words and describe it, because that is going to be your instructions to the computer. What we can do is, let's, at the end of this workshop, or maybe at try to create after this, try to type in an English sentence that you think from these words that you see, and put it in the chat window. And if for those who are following along, you can feel free to put that in yourselves and try out. For those who are not, I will select one from the chat, and I will put it in my chat window and show you in real time and how your image would look like, right? So I'm gonna keep this slide up while you think about, use your imagination to come up with a couple of one prompt. So this comes to, what is a prompt? I think you all tried a basic prompt before. The first part of it is the description of the output, what you can imagine. And then the second are very specific instructions to the computer, to the AI. We did not cover the second part of it. I think we took a dabble at how do you create your description of the output, which is the first part of it, right? So your pink watermelon, your Lego, what you just typed in, your drone shot of your garden, that's your description of the output. But then there is another set of sequences that you can add or instruct to the computer. So I have in this picture, in this slide, try to put in a very description. Prince Andrew and his friend Sally walking together in the park, photographed by Annie Leibovitz. This is a popular photograph that she shot, and I think maybe you can recreate it. But then the instructions on the right side are a very specific set of instructions that I am telling the computer, to the AI, to say there is a very specific variations. -S stands for a specific set of guidance to the computer that says style. I want you to assume a wide variety of styles. In this case, it's 500 styles to consider before you render the image. -minus style raw is a very specific instruction that tells the computer that I wanted to create an image that's toned down, more photographic in nature, not as a painterly, not as sketchy that and bright that a photograph does not usually have. Excuse me. And lastly, the minus AR in towards the end is aspect ratio. You're instructing the computer to create a picture that is of the 16:9 format. If you've noticed, when I typed in my images, by default they were all squares, and that was by choice. I've set the default, and Midjourney has set the default to be square. And here I am forcing it to say, I don't want squares. It doesn't make sense. So I've set it as instructions to AR minus 16:9, which is in that format. So the way you do this is, let me go back here. These are the common instructions on how to do this. Very first thing, we've already followed these instructions. So there's a screen here that talks about Midjourney bot, which is where, if you, for those of you following me along, you're in this personal Midjourney bot. This is where you're conversing one-on-one. The bottom screen here is telling you where you put your special instructions. All of your work is automatically saved. You don't have to save anything. You don't have to export. You can come back anytime and look at it. As a quick follow-up, I can just show you. If you go to your web page, which is your Midjourney, and click on midjourney.com and click on this section here, this is a real-time update of every image I've created. So you can see it just refreshed itself with the latest ones that I just did. This gives you a running inventory of all the images. And if you like a specific image, you can click here and it tells you what was this prompt for this. What were the special instructions that I gave the computer? And you can copy it, you can rate it, you can search, you can do other variations of it. And if you see up on the top, there's a imagine that's coming soon. So what Midjourney is trying to do is to not need Discord anymore. You can just do all your images right from here. And they're working on it. We don't have that up and running, but this is something that's coming in the future where you don't have to go to Discord to get into the Midjourney. You can also download the images. So this is something that's coming up shortly. So one of the quickest things to do in Midjourney, I think you started exploring /imagine, right? So that's one of the first prompts that you try to do. That's not the only one. There's a lot of them. So imagine is one of them that you see in the picture. There's something called settings, which tell you what are the default settings. I think I mentioned the style raw is a default setting that I have. There's variations in styling minus S500 that you saw before. Those settings are something that you can set as defaults. You also have something called blend, which allows you to upload 2 of your images and blend them together. You also have other things such as you can type in /info. And it'll tell you, if you're a paid subscriber, it'll tell you how many credits do you have remaining. If you've gotten your basic subscription and you have your 200 as your default, you can type in /info at any point in any day or any time, and it'll tell you how much is remaining. It'll tell you other details around your account information also. You can also use something very special called /describe. What it is imagine you have a picture that you have taken, either your picture of your photography or photograph or a picture of your art. And you can use the /describe to describe in a computer words on how it sees your image, how the computer sees your image. And that should give you a good idea on how to describe your image. That's a very effective way for you to learn how to get what you're thinking about in your head. So this is the /settings. If you type in /settings, for those who are following along, just type in /settings and hit enter. And you're going to see this kind of a screen. So by default, you always set the latest model. In this case, I've set up as, use the latest model. Version 5.2 of Midjourney is the latest model. Raw mode, I just briefly described. It's a toned down version. If you don't like the toned down version, you can get a very artistic, bright colored artist kind of a photograph, non-photograph sketch painting, etc. That's in not in raw mode. The stylized high corresponds to -250. The public mode, unfortunately, unless you are a highly paid customer, which is runs into a lot more, thousands of dollars a month, will always be public mode. So meaning your images are used by are shareable to the public. Remix mode allows you to remix your own images, make modifications. Before, when you clicked on version 1, V1, V2, V3, V4, a prompt that pops up saying, hey, do you want to modify your prompt? That's what remix mode does. You can change your prompt before you submit it each time. High variation, low variation mode will give you the variations, V1, V2, V3, V4. Sticky style is something new that they introduced recently. I will revisit it later on, but for now you can turn it off. For the fast mode, turbo mode, relax mode tells how fast you want it to come back. You see, as soon as I typed in a prompt, you would see right now it immediately says queued, and then a few seconds later you start seeing the images being rendered. But that's because by default all paid members get fast mode, and you have your 200 fast mode settings, and after the fast mode expires you automatically go into relax modes. So this is like the settings, and a quick way to show you what it looks like. Let me just type it. In the bottom, this is where your command is all the time. Type in settings. So this is how it shows up. And you could see, if I pull in here, I have these variations. Niji is a very specific model. Each model is a variation of what is trained on. Version 5.2 is the latest. Niji is a very special model. It's trained on anime and pictures in Japanese art styles. So if anybody is interested in producing anime or Japanese art, you can definitely use the Niji model V5 to generate very quick anime kind of art. There is also these other modes that you see here, which we just briefly described. This is how you get it. These are all buttons. You can click them, and each one of them activates. And you see up on the top, adjust your settings, current suffix. These are the instructions. By default, this is all the instructions I'm giving the computer. So again, I think it's important for us to learn, how to do this thing. If you type in IMAG or just the first few letters of your word in the slash IM in the slash window, and you can just hit the tab on the keyboard and it completes it. It becomes the full Imagine prompt. And everything that follows the Imagine prompt is your description, is your prompt, essentially, right? The choice of words does matter. Each word, even the synonyms, produce different kind of images. You could say big, or you could say gigantic. You can say very big, or they all produce different images. They're all different variations of it. You can also type in really, really descriptive, or you can type in small. They will all produce different variations of the image. You can use adjectives. You can use name of artists, styles. Don't type in a one word. It's not going to produce a very creative image. Produce more descriptive of what you really want to produce. And you can tweak the image. You can tweak the image by changing the prompt midway, right? So you can keep playing with it. This is how you do it. On the bottom of the slide, I have two links. There's a link called prompt generator, where you could type in what you're thinking about, and it returns back a more meaningful prompt that you can copy paste into your Midjourney, right? So it allows you to tell you use the right words it doesn't need to be grammatically correct at all. You don't have to have a grammatically correct sentence in this case. It needs to have all the words, and the words trigger the right context and the right emotions in the image. Basics of prompting: you can use commas to separate. You can use brackets, square brackets, or you can also use braces. You can use hyphens to separate. You can organize your thoughts. Capitalization is not important. Focus on what you want on the image and not on what you don't want. So describe the medium, whether it be a photograph, a painting, an illustration, a sketch, a pen art, scribe. You can describe what your medium needs to be. Describe the environment, whether it needs to be indoor, outdoor, in a specific city, in a specific town. I think I showed you a picture of something that I've done in New York City. The computer knows, the AI knows many different geographies, many different cultures. You can say, I'm looking for a photograph of an Iceland or the volcanic eruption. It knows the details. It's been trained in all of that. You can describe it. If you're a photographer, you need to describe the lighting conditions. You need to describe the techniques. It understands the Rembrandt lighting, loop lighting. It understands all of that techniques. Describe the colors. It understands the complementary colors, the adjacent colors, the color wheel. It understands what muted colors are, pastel colors. Describe the mood. Describe the framing. You want a low angle shot, you want a high angle shot, a drone shot, you are interested in a portrait, a headshot, a mug shot. You can get all of these are valid keywords to be used. You can use composition. You need to know. You can use the rule of thirds, symmetry, all of these different perspectives. If you're an artist, you can use all the perspective names. There's more to think, right? So if you're an artist, think of describing the vision that you want in terms of the artistic vocabulary that you have. If you are a photographer, describe the vision of what you want to take a picture of, or what do you want the AI to generate in terms of photography. We as photographers often don't necessarily explicitly call out your apertures, because you use your fingers and you use your brain to implicitly think about it. Here, when you're talking to the AI, you have to be very explicit. You have to really state these, or you're not going to get it, right? You have to say, I am looking at a photograph, that has a f2.0 or has an ISO of 1400, and you may be doing it implicitly today, but unless you explicitly state that to the AI, like I said before, it's a blind person. It was not going to know if you don't say it. There's infinite possibilities with the AI. You can describe the texture. You can describe the illustration or the media type. You can describe the anatomy. You can describe the perspective. You can describe angles, lighting. There is a way to actually describe what you don't want. There's a special instruction that you can send to the computer that says minus minus no, and you can say minus minus no people, or you can say minus minus no logos, hands, or colors, specific color. You don't want any of the red colors to show up. You can specify that. You can specify colors, composition, elements. There's all these things. I think so it's very important to learn to know that you are really the artist, not the AI, right? So you have to, when you have to explicitly, clearly specify what it is in your head that you want to draw out, or have the AI to create image. So use the AI as just a tool. It's just creating what you're telling it to create. And unless you are very explicit, you're not going to get what you're looking for. It's just going to be a random. When if you remember back in the time when digital cameras became popular, everybody became a photographer. But then, right, everybody were, whoever had a camera, they just went out and became event photographers, wedding photographers. And oftentimes you would see on various forums that, people took pictures that really came out bad. There was a lot of litigations. That's because people who are not trained to be photographers, who really didn't have the real grasp of what photography was, started taking pictures just because they had the camera in their hand. And AI is similar in that sense, right? Anybody can create images, but creating art is really something, what you can really imagine, and to have that create from an AI, it's a completely different level. There is a link on the bottom. You don't have to read this in detail, but this is another cheat sheet for you to learn. It gives you a very good idea about how to construct prompts. And more importantly, it gives you all the different variations in one shot. And the link on the bottom takes you to a page that helps you automatically create prompts based on it. So you could select, for example, I'm trying to create a painting, I'm trying to create an art, I'm trying to create a sketch, and then it automatically constructs the prompt for you at the end of it, and you just copy paste it into your Imagine window. So for those who are following along, I have a bunch of play prompts, and I think I wanted you to take a few of these and start putting it in and try it out, right? So for those who are just following along, I will copy paste this into my Discord, and so you can see what it looks like. And if you have any very specific variations that you wanted me to play along, just type it in the chat window like before, and I will give that a shot. And I will walk you through what it is. Stop the recording, Nancy. So coming back to the prompting, we learn about the basic prompting techniques. That the basic prompt has two parts to it. There's a description of the prompt, and there's those special instructions. So this section of the chapter, we are going to cover more on the second part of it, in various different ways that we can instruct the computer to actually do what we really want it to do. The first part of it is something called multi-prompts. What it is, today when we in our English grammar, we break a paragraph into sentences, and we break it into different reasonable kind of acceptable sentences. So in a computer instruction point of view, we call them segments. And we also, when we do our English text paragraphs, we pay emphasis to an importance of specific sentences carrying more weight than the other. We call them weights in prompting language. So the way you break a long prompt into multiple pieces is using this special character called double colon. So what it is if you put in two double colons in sequence, it creates a segment. So for example, in the example that you see living room versus living colon room, it separates the living living room into two separate distinctive instructions to the computer. If you go and type in living room into your Discord image, into your image prompt, and you type in living colon room into your prompt, you're going to get completely different kind of a output, right? So one is about living is part of it, and then room is just a part of another sentence. And it is kind of important, because when you have a really complex, imagining a really complex kind of a prompt, you need to be able to clearly instruct the computer for, okay, these are two different sentences, or you're just describing the ambience, you're just describing the actual subject, you're describing the background, or you're giving a context. So those are different techniques to create this kind of a context for the computer, right? And the second example that I have there, living colon 2, is a weight. I'm saying, I'm specifically instructing the computer to say living is actually more heavy, carries a much higher weight than the room itself. So you wanted to emphasize in the vision, in the picture, that living is a more important aspect than the living room, right? It's just a room, but then the living, which means, if you're asking for a family, for example, the family has a much higher emphasis about the living aspects of the family than the actual room that they are in. And that's how you kind of create this multi-prompting, right? We'll examine some examples throughout this session. We'll go into some examples that talk about it. In terms of permutation, what it means is, it generates multiple prompts based on a very specific single command. So in this example that I've given, I've said within the flower braces, you have your color, black and white. There are two variations. I want to create a color photograph of a man. I want to create a black and white photograph of a man. I want to create a color photograph of a woman, black and white photograph of a woman. So you could write 4 prompts, or you could just write it like this. And this gives you 4 prompts automatically. So when you send a prompt like this back to the computer, it will create 4 different variations of all these 4 different characters, instead of creating take one single prompt and create 4 variations of it. Panning and zooming, we briefly touched upon it. When you are in an upscale, when you have your single picture, when you create an upscale, and you want it to pan left to right, or you want to zoom in or out, you can create those kind of characters with this. Zoom out, we'll cover that briefly. When you have like a room full of characters and you want to add more context to the back of it, right? So you're expanding the canvas, but then you're not expanding a blank canvas. You're asking the blank canvas to be filled with the same context that you have in the middle image. And that's what zoom out does. In painting, and sometimes called out painting too, is what it is you have your image, you like most of it, but you don't like some parts of it. So what you can do is you can paint out a very specific section of the image and say, I want you to recreate this part of the image. So I think one of the best examples, I've specifically called out an application called Firefly. Firefly is a AI tool from Adobe. If you have Adobe Photoshop, if you have one of the subscriptions, Firefly comes part of it. Adobe now have Firefly as a separate tool, and it's also built into the Photoshop. And with this, what you can do is you can put your own picture, your own photograph in it, circle the pieces of the place where you said, I don't like this. And you can ask that piece to be generated by the AI to say, I want you to replace this section with a completely brand new section. And I'll show you some examples for what it is too. So those are some of the possibilities. This is like a summary in that sense. And we'll cover each one of these in a little more detail as we go through the slides. So it's important to understand that there are some taboo words. There's a lot of taboo words, actually, more than what you see here. There are some things that many of the manufacturers, including Midjourney, Dolly, and all these guys, they have put in place. There are certain things you cannot say, and these are some examples of some of those things. They are censoring a lot of these words before it hits the AI. So as soon as you put in a text for one of these words in them, you will instantly get a notification back from Midjourney saying, these are the words that you cannot use, or please resubmit your prompt without them, or you have to come up with synonyms or other alternative ways if you're really serious about using this in an expressive artistic manner. There are, for example, one of the most popular photography word is boudoir. And there are other ways to do this. It's a very popular for those guys who are interested in pursuing it. You can use those, but in different synonyms and stuff. it is important to learn that, to know that there are things. It's not important for you to actually pursue any of these, and get the full list of all the taboo words. I don't think they are actually sharing a public. There's no public description or any specific vocabulary out there that says these are the taboo words. This is based on my personal experience, and also experience based on a number of different people who have tried it, sharing these things we had problems with. There's also specific artists who called out and said, hey, I don't want you to have my pictures or my styles being imitated. So those words have been struck out. So if you say I'm trying to create the same one as this popular photographer, and you see an error message pop up saying this photographer or this artist recreation of the styles is banned, that's probably because they've added those photographer or those artist styles into this list of banned words. There are commands. There are two aspects of instructions that you can do. One is parameters. Parameters are the ones that we just did the aspect ratio, the minus style raw, minus AR. Those are called parameters. And there are also commands. Commands are anything that starts with slash, right? Your slash imagine prompt, for example, is a command. Slash describe, I explained to you before, if you have your own picture and you want to upload your picture up into the into the AI and say, describe this image, that's a command. And there are more commands. There's a command called shorten, which says, you have your very detailed descriptive prompt, and even though you've described it in a lot of detail, many of the words that you're using in your prompt may not have any value in that sense, right? So the computer may not even understand what you're saying in the use of certain words, and slash shorten will remove those things. Anything that the machine feels irrelevant or not useful for its creation, it's going to remove them from the command and then return back, hey, here is a shortened command. You could get the same exact image without all these additional embellishments, and that's a shortened command. Blend blends two different images. You can also use the imagine command to do this too, but blend specifically is targeted at doing this. I will briefly show you how to do this. I think you've seen the info command. We talked about it before. Settings, we talked about it before, slash settings. And dot show is also something that's more advanced. It's what it does is it gives you something called a job ID, which allows you to use the same exact style from the previous image. Let's suppose you're creating a theme, right? So as artists, you may be creating a series of work, all with the similar color styles, all maybe with a similar kind of a theme, similar background settings, similar aperture settings, similar ISO settings, etc. And it's a collection, it's a theme that you want to showcase. You need to make sure that every image follows a similar kind of pattern, and that's where the seed comes in, right? So if you maintain the seed from in each prompt, you're guaranteed to get a similar theme of style images. These are the parameters, instructions that we called before. Minus style, it's like turning down the volume. Don't scream at me with a lot of colors and brightness. So that's what the stylize is, a different command. It's a command that varies between 0 to 1000. If you've seen some of the prompts that I did before, the minus S 250 shows up quite often because that's the default setting in my case. Seed, I think I explained to you before, it's a random number. So there are two different ways to use this. If you're starting a brand new style or a theme that you want to create, you can force a seed number. You can select a random number and say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and say this image is seed minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And every image that you use, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it will imitate the similar kind of a style or look and feel as you did the first time that you use that seed number for that. So this is the way of forcing a seed across multiple images. We spoke about minus no, which means if you're looking at it, if you're creating a prompt, sending specific instructions to the computer, but you say, I don't want people, I don't want, lakes, I don't want flowers, you could specify those kind of things in it. Weird, it's an available pattern. It gives you a completely arbitrary image. It's a highly creative kind of a parameter. So this highly creative minus S 1000 gives you a very creative image. It gives you a very loose interpretation of your prompt. Minus 0, on the other hand, tries to follow more accurately to what you're describing in your text, in your prompt. So there are ways to fine tune or force the computer to stick to the prompt, or give it creative freedom to explore based on the prompt you're giving. You don't have to write down as I'm doing this. These are all in the handouts, actually. And I think Paul was asking before, can I generate video from my prompt? Yes, you can. So the minus video generates a video from your prompt. Instead of your image, 4 different images, you're going to get 1 video. So that's an option. You can specify a creative prompt and say, I want to create a video, and it generates a video from it. It's not fantastic. There are other tools out there that probably does a better job than this. But the option is nevertheless is available within this tool. Image weight. So this is an option that you use if you have an image. Let's say you upload your own picture and say, I want to create a avatar or a pseudo cartoonish kind of an image, or a realistic image of yourself. You can specify that I wanted my, and you put in a text describing the image. You could say my image carries more weight than the text, and it's going to try to create the styling and the characteristics of the image than that of the prompt, and uses the prompt as a secondary set of instructions. Minus AR gives you the aspect ratio. It must be whole numbers only. You cannot have any fractions. 0.5s is not a valid option for aspect ratio. Minus chaos gives you unexpected images, similar to weird. Minus Q is a quality. So the higher values up to 2 gives you a higher quality image. The default is 1. You can also go fractions. You can say, I want to reduce quality, I want it more blurry, I want it more sharp. So those are the different options. You don't have to memorize. I'm just giving you all of these instructions as an advanced feature. You can start playing with it, and as you start playing with it, if you ever wonder, hey, can I do this? Yes, there are ways to do this, and this is kind of giving you the options. All of these instructions are already available within the handouts also. So one of the things that I wanted to do was here, this one. We just went through this. Chaos, aspect ratio. Okay. So, the picture on the left is a real picture of me when I was visiting Utah, and on the right is my interpretation from the AI. I use the picture on the left to feed it back into the computer, and said, generate an image that looks like that. And the prompt that I created was I uploaded the image of myself, and I said on the text prompt, I said a man from India with glasses, and I used the Niji model. And if you look at the minus IW, it means I'm saying give more emphasis to the image that I uploaded of myself to create the prompt. So it does create a good likeness and characteristics. It does not retain a lot of different aspects, but there's some likeness, and it does generate a reasonably good picture. And the reason it is animated is because I used another tool to animate the image. And you can do stuff like this, and it's pretty easy to do things like this. You can create your own avatar. There's a set of instructions. One of the first things to do is to open. I think I'll show the instructions. The first thing to do is open Discord. And if you have a picture of yourself handy, you press the button up on the bottom. Let me show you. This is your Discord, and you see this plus button up here. Press button up here. So this is how you upload your file. You can upload any image back into Discord using this option. You can also, if you're trying to describe, you can type in describe, and as soon as you hit tab, it will automatically ask you to upload an image. And you can upload any image you want. Let me see if I don't know if I have pictures up here. I think I have my picture up here. You just describe again this picture up here, a random picture from one of my collections. I'm asking it to describe this image, and if I hit enter, so it's decrypting my image, and it came up with 4 different prompts. It said an ocean in a city in the style of New York City landscape, spiky mounts, Nikon AF 600 32K. It comes up with 4 different variations of prompts. And what you can do on the bottom is it also tells you to imagine prompt 1, prompt 2, prompt 3, prompt 4, or I can click on this button and say imagine all 4. Right? So, the simplest thing I could do is I'll just show you an example, and it gives me an option because I'm in remix mode. I can change any of these things if I don't like it. But this is how I uploaded my own picture into this computer, into the AI, and said generate a text description, a prompt of what this picture is, and I tweaked it. So here, this would look nothing like this picture, obviously, but it's a picture that describes it of I think this came in close, not bad. It has a skyline, which is important.
Yeah, kind of. Wow.
Pretty reasonable in that sense. Yeah, I don't know, the spiky things, I don't know if what that means. Maybe I should eliminate that in my prompt and get the picture of skyline more accurately looking like my picture up here. But that is the starting point for how I started with my picture here to create my avatar. If you see the instructions here on this side of the screen, I uploaded a picture of myself, and it gave me 4 different variations of prompt, right? And I selected the settings. I selected the Niji model, which is what I used. and I selected and I created these kind of 4 images, which not necessarily looks like me, but I think you get an idea. So this is the prompt that I use to describe myself to the computer, and I compare them against what the computer generated. So, and then I use these extra settings on the bottom to say it's a aspect ratio of 9:16, style of 250, Niji 5 model, and Niji 5 actually has a bunch of style characteristics. I use the word expressive to describe the style that I'm interested in, and it really builds over this, right? It builds, in this process. I'm just showing you how I uploaded the image, and once I did it, you type in the dash describe, and it gives you the option to describe it. And I type in the text here, and I go through this. This keeps running, but what I wanted to show you is here are all the different variations of the same prompt. As I played with it, it created all the same exact prompt with slight nuances, slight variations. I spent hours working on this to figure out which is, the right one. And I kind of ended up with here, which is more or less equivalent, tweak until you're happy. You go back and forth, you switch using the 5.2 model versus the Niji model. You can do a pan scale, you can upscale, until you're happy with it. So this is how you would create, your images using the AI. And note that this is
Look at the camera so that they can compare.
Yeah. Obviously the beard is missing, not as much, but I think it is a close likeliness. And to create the thing that you should understand is I use no camera to create this picture you're seeing. I just use the AI to create that. And I just gave it instructions for how to create me. And I gave the image just one picture, not even train it in multiple pictures. I just gave it one picture that I uploaded and used a bunch of instructions to tweak it to make it create where, the pictures that you're seeing. I think you should, if you're interested, this is how you would have to try to learn how to do this, because the process of creating this is going to help you to understand the process of how the AI understands the pictures and the training. Do we want to pause and maybe, have you, anybody following along want to? Okay, so this is a section, and again, in the advanced section, there's a new sequence called style tuner, the new command. So what it is, as a photographer or as a person who's doing a sequence of similar themes, you can go in and create your own style. You can create your own specific theme for creating a series or a series of pictures. And one of the things that Midjourney has done is not only can you now create a style, you can also share the style with the rest of the world. And the way to do this is something called a style tuner. And what you do is you go in first, you create a base prompt, you create a base structure that describes your theme of the photograph or theme of the picture. And then you select the color schemes, you select the camera you use, the methods you want to create this with, and you go through the process of creating a sequence, what they call directions. What it means is it creates a sequence of images 32 images, 64 images, 124, 128 images, predefined images, and you select from these predefined images, and then it creates a new theme for you. So I've created one that has the characteristics of the picture on the left. For example, I said this is, minimalistic kind of a scenery, from period time. It should have minimalistic, not as much, not as bright a color palette. And anybody can just go into the tuner.midjourney.com/ that link that I have in number 2, click on it, and then create a style based on my theme. Or you can, if you want to create images with the same exact theme, you could just use minus style and put in this sequence of numbers that I have in next to number 4, raw-aqwe, this random code. So if you use this minus style dash raw code, you're going to get an image that looks very, very similar to this. And I've created some, so you can see a portrait of a woman doing household in the 18th century rural India, in a rural Japan. You see there are some similarity in theme, even though the text is completely different. And that's because I use the same exact style. You can go and use the same exact raw in yours, and you create a 15th century American, and it's going to create an image that is American culture, but the similar theming, similar color characteristics, similar minimalistic characteristics of this. And this is how you create something called a share, similar to styles. And I've done a similar thing with Annie Leibovitz. Unfortunately, she's too popular, so I decided to use her a couple of times. I've created a style that recreates, for example, Annie Leibovitz pictures. So it's more of an educational thing. I don't think anybody should be using this. Unfortunately, when I created it, I used a style up to 256 jobs. So if you use this with caution, if you're going to create a style with that many seeds, with that many jobs, you're going to exhaust all your 1 month's quota of 200 in one shot, because it creates 256 images in one sitting. If you press the button, you're done. It creates 256 images, and all your quota for this month is gone. So be very careful for doing this. Here's the style seeds that I used, and just to give you an idea how it can create. These pictures are all using Annie Leibovitz style. So the British Queen, the Indian Maharaja, and anything else you create, they're all going to be of the same Annie Leibovitz style. So if you've seen some of her standard pictures, this is kind of representative of what you can do with it. And you can create anything. I think I've already also played with, for example, Ansel. You can create something like that. Let me see if I can show you that. There you go. No mistaking on that, right? What if it's shot in color? With the moon all over the place, with the different structures, futuristic themes.
That's nice.
They're changing, but subtle changes. So there's infinite ways to play with.
How to burn up all your images, right?
Yeah. Some of these ones too. right? And you can play with similar. I think this was Jill Greenberg. If you know, she has these kind of pictures. If you have seen Jill Greenberg series, this is her styled pictures. It's incredible. What is incredible is the fact that computers now can analyze your pictures from as little or as many, and can actually tell you what your style is. And it's educational from that point of view
Yeah,
alone.
yeah.
If nothing more, for you to understand your own work, to see what is it that makes you as you, understand your own style. Okay, let's now talk a little bit about the next part of it. So again, another prompt challenge. If you made a mind exercise, come up with a whimsical fake animal by combining features from real ones.
Break.
Yep, let's take a 5-minute break. Yeah. So Paul, why don't you share your screen and walk us through that exercise we just did?
Okay. So I started with my prompt was it's an animal combining a tiger, giraffe, and shark. I thought, oh, I'll get the long neck of the giraffe and the jaws of the shark and so on. And you can see here that this first one wasn't quite what I was expecting. And so then the second one described it a little bit more, said an animal with the neck of a giraffe, jaws of a shark, stripes of a tiger. That's kind of getting more along the lines of what I was thinking, a little more fantastical type of animal.
Imagine this for costume designers.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. To imagine various costumes. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
all of those plastic faces they make.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
All right, here is a ferocious dragon head on the body of a colorful hummingbird with a fluffy dog's tail. Okay.
Well,
The third is really spectacular. This one
really,
too.
yeah, the third.
Yeah,
We don't get
right,
the tail though.
right, what? Yeah,
We don't get the tail with that one. Actually, we don't get the tail with any of them.
right.
Yeah, I'd really have to play with. This is such a good exercise, even without me having to manipulate the keys. You know,
Yeah,
to see just how specific and what ways you can weight an idea.
right. I think during this break, we were having a side chat. I don't know how much of it was audible to you guys. You know, in the handouts, there is a small picture. There's a picture of a 9 blind men walk into a room and
yeah.
have to describe an elephant. And depending on what aspect of the elephant they feel and touch, because they're blind, they describe the elephant that way. If somebody, if one of the blind men just feels the trunk of the elephant, they're going to think that's what the elephant looks like. And, I think that's an important lesson, because you need to understand that you're describing what is going on in your head to an AI for it to actually understand and interpret. And I think Paul's exercise was a good lesson in that way, because you need to, he in his head he was imagining a tiger with a long neck, but the computer wouldn't know that. You have to explicitly tell it that I am envisioning a long giraffe head or a neck and a tiger's head. And you need to be that explicit in describing what it is that you have in your head. And that's the point of that exercise.
Yeah.
Umesh, did I just hit share and you'll get it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
All right. I got exactly what I put in.
Oh, nice. Very good to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hit the other button.
It's coming.
Ooh, wow. What did you put in? What is it?
Fuzzy pink animal with long nose and webbed feet.
Show us the bigger picture on the background and the enlarged one.
Click on the back one.
No, the one on the back. Yeah. The one in the browser.
Okay, we lost it all.
Here. Just double click on the picture again and it'll open up again.
Pardon?
Yeah,
Here.
no, just double click on the 4 pictures that you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see it.
Show
Yeah,
the screen.
yeah, but it's tiny on our monitor, no screens here.
I can make it larger.
But yeah, I think it's good.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
Better?
yeah,
That's better.
Wow.
yeah. The third one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit scary.
Now, if you liked one of those, how would you ensure and you wanted to do a series of pictures with the creature and different scenes? Is there a way that it'll make the creature look the same for each different scene?
Not each scene, but this is where I said the seed.
Seed, okay.
So I will just we'll cover that section.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have a seed, but I can just quickly show you how to do that.
We have to
Let's-
unshare.
Yeah. Are you on? Yeah, we are sharing.
Don, you need to unshare us.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So let's imagine in this 4, I'm interested in this one right here, the third. I will do this, right? And let it generate the individual image on that. And I go here, and then there is a reaction for where is that envelope? Look for one called envelope.
Here it is, top row.
Huh? This one right here. So as soon as I click on the envelope, so the way to do this, it's kind of tricky, but you're liking this image with an envelope, and the minute you do that, I can click on this image, and it sends me back a message about the job ID and stuff. So once I have the job ID, that's not the right image. That's not the right. This is email. No, I wanted an envelope. I don't know why they made it this tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one right here. So you see a colon envelope colon, that's the right message. So when you do that, so you saw how I immediately got back a message that says job ID and seed.
Mhm.
So this is the seed. I copy the seed, Control C or Command. This, you just copy this, and you type in image, a fancy dog, in minus like this. So now you do this, it's gonna try to follow the same similar theme for a dog.
Okay.
So it's gonna try to copy the similar characteristics of it. So this is how you maintain your themic properties.
Right.
It's not absolutely exact, but I think you get the idea. This is how it starts. Really strange.
Yeah, it's not really like the other one at all.
No, not at all.
I mean, not even in style.
They're nice pictures, but
Yeah,
Yeah, very cool.
It's very cute, but I wouldn't say it's the same.
they're like
style.
the same style. Yeah. Nothing is guaranteed. That's the problem.
Ah,
There you go.
Yeah. You try to do this, but it's similar. This is where the style tuner actually helps too. So if you go to the style tuner, you're gonna see that option.
Oh.
It does a better job at doing a style tuner than the seed. And so what would I, okay, I'm gonna go back, switch back to the. Okay, so we are in the part of the workshop that talks about focuses on photography. So it is, I think we have discussed this quite a number of times. It is as much about the photographer than it is about the image, right? It is important that you describe what you wanted to create more accurately and as accurately as possible. So this section is more about a photography refresher for you in the context of in the context of AI. There I'm going to cover some things such as film and lighting, right? So in this example, you're going to see the Fuji Provia and Fuji Velvia, so you can see the subtle differences. You're also going to see the differences between Rembrandt lighting and loop lighting, and it's the same exact kind of a prompt with slight changes, right? ISO differences, aperture is same, the lens is the same, but the lighting and the Fuji Provia and the Rembrandt sets the mood differently if you look at the image. So this only happens because you as a photographer are able to make the difference and able to ask the difference in how you want the picture to be rendered. Same thing with motion. You need to be explicitly clear if you want a long exposure or an incredibly high, fast exposure time, right? A short exposure or long exposure. You want to have these specific keywords that I have here that talk about, freeze frame, time lapse, motion blur. All of these are special keywords that you use to freeze the frame versus a slow motion, right? The depth, again, on the left side, you could see it's a telephoto lens, shallow depth of field. On the right side, it's a much more environmental portrait where you have a lot of focus and a lot of depth with various aspects. Again, if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. So as a photographer, you need to know as you're shooting it, you're making these changes in the camera subconsciously, right? And it's going to stay in your camera and your head, never come out. But in this case, you need to explicitly state that into your prompt because you're instructing your AI is your camera, right? So you need to tell it exactly how to set it up. And the only way to do it is to describe it in your text. The mood, you have to specifically set out the mood. You need to tell it that to add fog, or it's not going to add fog. You need to tell it that it's a daylight with harsh sunlight, with harsh shadows, and then it's going to create the image on the right side. So again, this is for you as a photographer telling it how to take the picture, and AI is your camera. The same thing with artists. You know, if you're an artist and you wanted it to do a specific brush strokes, or you want the canvas to look like it's a torn piece of paper, or if it's a handmade paper, you need to let it know that the canvas that it needs to draw is not a regular canvas. It's the special canvas, and it's a special brush, and it's a special kind of paint, and it's a special technique, and it's a special perspective. All of these things have to go in. Or if it's a mixed media, you have to say, you have to add this extra bit of uneven paint. This is again another so there's subtle nuances in the use of the words. X-ray versus cutaway, they mean different things to the computer. The one on the left is a X-ray view of the camera. The one on the right is a cutaway view. So you can have cutaway view of any object. You can ask for it. There are also special terms. I think we had in the past last workshop introduced a word called knolling. Knolling. Okay, so I want you guys to try it. You can try. Let's try that. Let's give that a shot. Try an image of imagine a camping adventure, offbeat. Notice that I'm this doesn't need to be grammatically correct, right? So it's off sequence, but it's still computer can figure that out. In Appalachian. Is that all right? APLA. How do you spell that?
I have no idea. Might be 2 L's. I don't know.
Appalachian. Knolling. That special word that I just said, knolling, I just added that here. And you're gonna see something very different you've not expected. It's because it's not gonna show you a completed picture of a camping trip in an offbeat. I'm gonna show you something completely different. It's 0. Ah, there you go. What it just did was it took all the components, all of the ingredients that you'll need for a offbeat adventure, camping adventure in the Appalachian, and I created an inventory list.
And we spelled Appalachian wrong.
Yeah, but I think it figured out it's
It
something
figured
to
it out
relate with the
anyway.
mountain.
Yeah.
So you could see this is your shopping list for your Appalachian trip. A visual shopping list of everything you need to assemble together. And that's what knolling just did by adding just that one word to it. So there are a lot of these special words that you need to know, and this is one of them. And it's really handy in that sense. We spoke about the aspect ratios. So here are some very commonly used aspect ratios. 3:2 is the standard, 16:9. By default, all your images are going to get a standard 1:1, which is your standard shot. Cameras are very important. You know, if you're asked for a Nikon camera with a Nikon lens with a daylight film, so you could see the subtle differences between the left and the right, where, you know, I'm asking for a bright day with a Nikon camera and a Nikon lens, you know, and the right side, I'm asking with a Canon camera and a Canon lens. So there's subtle colors differences, the rendering differences, and you can do the same thing. You could try this with a pinhole camera, for example, on the left side, or you can use a Polaroid on the right side, and you can try all these different variations, or you can ask for expired film, or even cross-processed film, you know, platinum palladium. You can ask all of that, and they all work great. You just need to know, if you want to see that, you have to ask for it. This is a silver print on the left side and the photographic seed print on the right side. So if you ask for it, you're going to get it. But you need to know of these techniques. As a photographer, you would, but probably a modern photographer, you know, somebody starting up with a digital may not know all these. This is the one I mentioned about the style raw, you know, the style minus the use of the word keyword photography and minus style raw forces the AI to generate photographs. If you do not use the photography tag or the minus style raw, you're going to get general generic artistic outputs. The one on the left is without the style raw. The one on the right is with the style raw. Again, going back to aspect ratios, if you are trying to create an environmental shot, you need to tell the computer to actually include either the landscape or the portrait modes, right? This is 16:9 or 9:16. I just reversed the format. And you're going to get a completely different look and feel, even though the picture are essentially the same. And there are various different kinds of photographic styles. There's a portrait style, there's a food photography, there's a product photography, which is, you know, incredibly very good with AI. There's architecture that I showed you a little bit. There's drone photography shots. There's minimalistic. There's hundreds of other variations of different kinds of photography styles. Unless you ask for it, you're not going to get it. So if you are a photographer and you know the tricks of trade with photography, then you can become a better photographer using these AI tools. And I think if you are trying to become a better photographer, the better way to do this is to use the AI to learn these techniques and to read up about it, and to, you know, this is going to help you. It's become a better photographer in that sense. This is a slide about something called in painting. So if you notice the difference between the pictures on the left and the right, the biggest difference is the face, right? So the picture on the left is a masked photograph. And how did I unmask it? How did I add a face to it, right? So this is the technique where I had it to paint in her head in a tool called Adobe Firefly, and then asked it to render an image, a fitting image that would gel well with the rest of the body. And I think it created a good, faithful reproduction in terms of everything else is untouched except the face, where you just see it's unmasked the face. And it's the same exact prompt. And minus style 0 is saying, do not make any more variations. It needs to be identical. Remember, we said the stylized parameter has a value from 0 to 1,000. And here style 0 forces it to just retain the same style as before. So composition by default, when you ask for a picture, you've gotten a series of pictures, they're all squares. It puts the person or the most important entity right in the middle of it because it's a square. In a lot of cases, we don't want this. In a lot of cases, when you're composing a picture of different aspect ratios, you would want the composition of the center of the image to be in a different place, right? So you need to explicitly ask for it. You need a picture of the low light in the eye level angle, and you need the composition to be photographed in the lower thirds or in the right eye level. So in this case, you could see the person is not in the center. It's moved to the left. So unless you ask for it, you're not going to get it. So there's a way to actually create. I think in this case, what I've tried to create is a portrait of a person, Sarah. I've specifically labeled her, right? Because then I can refer back every time I create a same prompt. I don't have to say a portrait photograph of Sarah. I just say Sarah, create an image of Sarah, isolated on black white background, dynamic action, 2 split screen sequences. So it created the same person with two different combinations of her of her features, right? So in the pan right, for example, the same sequence, head turned, different action, and you could see create a series of actions that way. So you could see these all 4 images, it's the exact same person, but in different kind of features. This is another way of creating themes. So we spoke a little bit before about the upscaling, right? So Midjourney has that ability to upscale 2x and 4x. But I think there are also better tools out there. There's a tool called Topaz Gigapixel, which allows you to create a much more dynamic and richer kind of contextual. It has the abilities. It is an AI-based tool, and it actually does a much better job at scaling, and it scales up to six times the original. So by default, you're going to get an image that's about 8,000 pixel by 8,000 pixel, which is pretty big, right? And compared to your regular 4x images. So if you're serious about producing images that are printable, high quality, large printable documents or images, then Topaz Gigapixel is the tool that I would recommend you use. So some of the styles to try, I have many of these styles as exercises in the document in the handouts. This is just a sampling of it. You can have various shot types, various film types, various lens types, camera types, styles. There's a huge list of things there for you to try, and I think this is something that you should pursue. And this is an example of a single prompt and its variation to the final picture, right? I started off with the top left image. Started off with a standard prompt up on the top, Hasselblad C500 and the whole bit. And I got the image that I liked after a series, the top left image. And I asked for, zoom out 2x. Then I said, okay, those hands are really crazy. Take a look at those hands in the right picture. Didn't make the cut, one of those pictures. Kind of looked unnatural. So we have to go through multiple versions of it. And then I asked for boats in the background, and it produces really unwieldy, kind of unnaturally large boat. Then I asked it to add a bird in the background. And then I ended up with the final image that looks like this, which is almost as real as anybody could tell, right?
Yeah.
But it's a similar process as a photographer that you would do after you take the picture, you send it through your Photoshop, you manipulate it, you manage it. You go through the similar process here, except your interaction is with the computer and your interaction is not with the Photoshop tools, but with your language of communication, back and forth. This is another sequence of pictures that I did. So this is an image that I did of a beach, and I will show you a little bit later of how you can take any image that you have and animate it too. So this is a sampling of images, and I wanted to just show you variations of, this is more artistic, less photographic. This is more photographic in that sense, more features here, again, much more dynamic. This is, look at the intricate designs on the costume and the shirt he's wearing. It's really intricate. You need to ask for such level of details, and the gold inlay pattern work that I asked for, gold embroidered shirt. So you have to ask for it. And this is like the same image that I showed you before, but I animated it. So I created a video of the same image. And the way to do this is right in the bottom. There's an app called Runaway ML, app.runaway ML. And you go to that website and you upload the image that you just took. And you create the motion sequence. You say, I want the motion to be horizontal, to be vertical, to be left to right, to pan. And you describe all of these motions, and you get it. And it generates a sequence of 4 seconds to 40 seconds, and you just create it. And I think the first 25 or 100 seconds of it is free. So feel free to go and use this to generate images or videos. And it's really fun. Okay, we have another chapter. Before we get into another chapter, I'm going to put another challenge. So we'll take a 5-minute break, and I think feel free to think about how do you take a word and then create a photograph with a mid-journey, linking all the words. All right, welcome back. I have 4 words now: apple, triangle, comb, and robot. Does anybody want to take a chance at plugging it into, or add any other words in and then create an
Maybe
image?
you do it, I think would be better.
We'll do that. What else do we want to do?
I don't see it. I plugged it in, but I didn't see anything generated.
Well, oh, you know what? If when you typed it in, can you go back and look at your prompt and make sure /imagine prompt,
I
the
did
word
that.
prompt, the word
Yeah.
prompt should be there.
Yes, I did that twice. /imagine, and then the prompt thing comes up, and then you type it in there. I did it twice.
Wait, what does it say? Wait, it should immediately switch on the right side to say, percentage fast, and it should show the percentage.
Wait a minute. Here it is. Yeah, it's here now.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's creative.
This is really strange looking.
Can you see it?
No.
Oh, I have to share it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to share your screen.
Yeah. Wait, it's coming. Hold on.
So every time you play the crossword puzzle now, you have your list of words.
Bizarre words.
Yeah, exactly. Random sequence of words that you never thought to see the light of the day. And now you have a way to visualize them.
when I go back to the,
We are not seeing your screen.
yeah, I know, then I lose you. So I gotta get you back. Hold on. Oh, here. All right, here's this, here's you. So if I go there. All right, hold on now.
Stop the recording.
Yeah. That is very mechanical.
Yep,
So read the prompt.
It's actually very futuristic.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I see the robot and the comb and the apple. Where would the triangle be?
No, it's not necessary that all of the words are honored. And the reason why that is, you have not specified the weights, right? So it's a random set of words, and the computer is going to make a determination if it can add a triangle in it or not. And maybe you can also open in a browser and magnify and see if there's any triangles. Maybe it's too small. Let's see. But I think it is in somewhat shape or form. It's like almost like a steampunk kind of a thing.
yeah.
And you can add steampunk into your prompt. It's yeah, try that out. That's also a very interesting word. We've tried it many times.
It's kind of mechanical and
Yeah,
gears and things.
exactly.
Metallic.
It is. But you can definitely see the apple. Apple reimagined.
And now I gotta get back.
Okay.
Yes.
You can do annulling a laptop, and is that what you did?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. It's deconstructing all the components of a laptop and laying it out as a ingredient list for you.
Yeah, I put the apple, robot, comb,
Yeah,
triangle.
yeah, and knolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing.
Yes, there you go. It laid out all of them.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Okay. All right, so let's continue. This is, we are now in a section of the talk where I talk about other tools besides Midjourney. So what you're looking at is a tool from Photoshop, from Adobe, and a tool called Firefly. And Firefly is both available as a standalone tool from from Adobe, sorry, as well as it's integrated into Photoshop. So if you have the latest version, I just wanted to show you what it looks like. If you have a Creative Suite, this is what you're looking at is the screen of Creative Suite. These are all the tools available, and you could see Firefly is its own tool. It used to be part of Photoshop Beta, and now it's a separate standalone tool. And it's also integrated into Photoshop. So if you open Photoshop, one of the options in one of the filters is Firefly. And Firefly is actually just a web-based tool. This is how Firefly looks. It's just a web-based tool. You just go to firefly.adobe.com and you have all these options: text to image, generative fill, text effects. Yeah, or you can just go here and type whatever it is and then click generate, and then it generates the image generates four images for you. So this is very similar. There at some point, in the next couple of months, you're gonna see that, you know, all the tools are more or less with similar features and similar characteristics, but slight nuances. One of the key differences with Adobe tools is Adobe has very consciously made a decision to be ethically sound. They have a very good AI practice, AI governance practice that that govern what images that they use for training, what images are created, and have a lot more governance on what the prompts should be like. They have an active enforcement process. All the images that Adobe uses for their training are all approved images, meaning every one of the images that they have used for training has an exclusive consent from the artist in that sense, right? So no unapproved images, no images borrowed from the internet or stolen from the internet. There are consequences from this, obviously, because you cannot ask it to generate a picture of the King of Sweden or Obama or in a funny way, because it's going to be censored or you're not going to get the image. So there are some nuances because of that, which is a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on how you decide to use it. But as a company, they are following good practices in that point of view. So there are various ways to use Photoshop, and here is a couple of examples I want to give you. One of the first examples is the picture on the left is a picture that I took in my home. It is a real picture. I uploaded it into Photoshop, and there is a generative fill section that you go in and if you go into the selecting the tools and select the option to generate it. What I've done is I've selected that picture, the section in the middle here, this section, and I've said, regenerate it with a different image. So you can see the picture on the right side, except that part, everything else is the same. So you can go in circle lasso using the lasso tool and ask it to replace it. And this is exactly how I added the face to the unmasked picture on the Black Swan portrait. So this is one way. And the way it does is it does it in three. So you have three options, three variations to select from. And I am showing you just the default option. There is another very important kind of a use case on this. The first is I'll show you how this one right here. So the video on the right side is a video recording. What it is this is a picture of me and my son in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to ask it to take a picture, the picture on the top, and replace the background, which is the famous Pittsburgh Tower. You have seen the movie Dark Knight. That's the Dark Tower in the Batman movie. The Gothic, it's Gothic architecture essentially. And I said I don't like that picture in the background, so I said replace it with Manhattan skyline. So what you do is you make a rough outline of the pictures of the section, and you change and ask it to generate a picture of the skyline in the background and the behind the scenes, and it takes a shot at doing it. Right. So the second video that I will that's the second video, right? So this is the picture. There you go. So you see the picture, more of itself in the background, completely removed with our pictures in the forefront. So you have three variations of it. And this is another way to use Photoshop's generative refill. And you have already seen in Adobe Photoshop, they already had this expansion of the canvas options in the past. They've kind of souped up that algorithm to be more generative in nature. So now you can expand a canvas of your image, and it automatically fills in the remaining blank canvas with what potentially could be missing from that image. Right. So if you're behind a lake, for example, it expands the lake. Or if you're in a park or in a garden, it expands and fills in the rest of the blank canvas with gardens, using AI to make a best guess at it. So that's one good case, and I think a very good use case for Photoshop. And this is another important use case I think you need to see. This is restoring old images, right? So if you have ever painstakingly restored old images, you can see in this picture, you're just highlighting, outlining, using a lasso, all the places where potentially you want to replace, and there you go. 30 seconds. That's all it took for you to actually rebuild an image and restore an image that was from back in the time to something like this. Completely restorative. And I think this this is mind-boggling, and how good it looks, what it used to take hours in the past for us. There's Stable Diffusion is another tool. I have the link to that. So an interesting story on Stable Diffusion is Stable Diffusion was one of the first companies to start it all. Stable Diffusion, Midjourney that you've been playing all along with, is based on Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is a company from a company called Stability.ai that originally started this AI imaging process. And they have their own tool called Dream Studio. And also Stable Diffusion is free. You can actually, they made all their models free. And in fact, if you have a good, powerful computer at home, you can run all of the models at home. You need to know how to do this, but installation is not covered. And it also requires you to be a little more technical. But if you are game for it, I can provide the details and the guidance for you to install it. And you can generate unlimited images with unlimited number of models, publicly available. The training database is available. They made everything free of cost to everybody. And you can see in this screenshot, dreamstudio.ai, unfortunately, is not free, but I think their underlying technology that they use to generate the images in Dream Studio is all free. And Midjourney is licensed Dream Studio and their algorithms. And of course, they have deviated from it. They've added their own functionality to it. But the underlying algorithms are the same exact things, the same. They kind of pioneered onto the space, the very first. DALL-E, if you've heard of OpenAI, DALL-E is the latest, DALL-E 3. There is a free version of DALL-E 3 available from Microsoft Bing. So if you have a Microsoft Bing account, you already have Bing, you already have DALL-E available to you. It's called Image Create. There's a link there called images, bing.com/images/create. If you use that, you're going to get access to the latest DALL-E 3. If you don't have access to it, you just have to create an ID for Microsoft Bing. It's a free account. And if you have the free account, then you can continue and use these images. If you have access to ChatGPT Plus, it's a very different kind of a toolkit. It gives you incredible access. And unlike Midjourney, DALL-E 3 with ChatGPT is incredibly understandable, understands your narrative in English. And you can ask it to be very widely imaginable. and you can ask it to say, I'm envisioning, Santa Claus in Mars, doing yoga, and it's going to create that image for you, and it's going to look very, very creative in that sense. Unlike Midjourney, where you have to be, you have to have a lot of importance drawn out to the focus on your prompt. This is a very free, open kind of no prompting technologies or techniques involved. It's just as good as you can describe it, it's going to create it for you. So I have some examples. The one on the left was created, it's the same exact prompt. I ran through multiple different programs just to give a sense of how are they different. So the picture on the left was created with Midjourney, and the picture on the right created with DALL-E. And there are a few differences you can see. There are slight differences, but it does generate a pretty good understanding. There is a good understanding of English language in DALL-E compared to Midjourney, which is grammar insensitive. But DALL-E understands English language very well. It actually understands multiple languages. You can ask it to generate image in many different languages. The same thing again. Double masking is a technique you very familiar with, double exposure. For example, the picture on the left, have no idea. Midjourney does not understand multiple exposure, but you could see the picture on the right. DALL-E is very good. It clearly, very easily understood. You're asking for double exposure, multiple exposure, and it created it.
That's really cool.
Firefly on the left, Stable Diffusion on the right. Same exact photo as before. So you could see how they're all different and same at the same time. One more picture, Midjourney versus Stable Diffusion. So the difference between the previous slide and this, the Stable Diffusion has multiple models. SDXL is a very special model, the latest model. Stable Diffusion also has something called Realistic Model. They have multiple models you can select here. It's equivalent to versions, version 5.2 and Niji model. So there I have multiple models, and each model has different characteristics because they are trained on different data. So one subtle difference I think I mentioned to you is DALL-E understands the context of the prompts better. It has a very high usability factor. You can influence the DALL-E's output. You can give it, it's trained in short and detailed, so you can have more descriptive, more closer the images to your prompt. The text is unreliable again, no points trying to go and ask for better text. So one specific reason why I am stuck with Midjourney is still very highly used by the underlying artist community. There's a very huge population of community supported artists who use it on a daily basis. And it's extremely well suited for creating photography, realistic pictures and images. Unlike DALL-E, which is more of a conceptual, for artists, for paint, for imagination, rather than being rendering realistic pictures. I want to show you. Let's go and show you a real example. So I just showed you here a site profile of a. So this is ChatGPT. This is DALL-E. You can create anything you want. I'm going to create a picture. Face. Highly complex and takes beyond the capabilities. This is very interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. This is wrong GPT. That's why. All right, I'm gonna copy paste. Sorry. This is the one I wanted. Am I even logged in? Yeah. It's not switching to Chat GPT 4. Is that? We stop? It's not switching, for example, to Chat GPT 4. Ah, now it did. So similar to how I mentioned about the different models in Stable Diffusion, OpenAI also has different models. ChatGPT 4 has the DALL-E component in it. The ChatGPT 3.5, which was the default, does not have the imaging capabilities. There you go. It created one image. So you can ask it to create more images, less images. So they all create images more or less, you know, 2 more images. So you are almost conversing with the chat, with the bot here, with the AI. See, I did not have to go back and recreate the prompt. I just asked it to create 2 more images like this. And it automatically said, okay, you know, I'm going to take the old one and then repurpose it and create 2 more. So you could see how my interaction with this bot is very different from how I was doing it with Midjourney. See, I'm almost like talking to it like a person. And I can ask it to make changes to it on the fly. So this is ChatGPT. We just showed you the Adobe Firefly. So this is the same exact Adobe Firefly, widescreen, content type, photo or art. You have the visual intensity. I can also upload my image to have reference. Can create all these different effects. And this is my text. This is the Photoshop. So with Photoshop, now is if you have the Photoshop account, any paid subscriber, now is the time to play with it, because starting January 1st, they're going to introduce something called credits. So they will give you default 100 credits for a user. And if you use beyond the 100 credits, you'll have to buy new credits or they'll charge you for it. With ChatGPT, it's a different thing. ChatGPT, you pay a monthly subscription fee for them. Stable Diffusion, Dream. Dream Studio is another tool I mentioned. Well, something is happening here. This is the wrong one. I want this. I'll try the runway. This was the runway. So all my previous ones, I think, it's. So this was something I did recently. The first image that I showed you before, right? I showed you the very first opening sequence. I tried to animate this. It's not really the best animation. I didn't like it. So there were other animations I did. This is the same one. It's very simple. It takes like 2 minutes to do this kind of animation. And this is the one I like the best, I think. And I created this image, alien image from Midjourney. You look at my stream here. This was my Thanksgiving, pre-Thanksgiving. There you go, here. I created this picture, an alien Thanksgiving celebration or exotic dinner spread at the table with extravagant set of characters around a giant table. So with food as 1.5, so you could see more emphasis on this first section compared to the food. So there's more characters here and less on the food. And I took this output of this image and I put it into Runaway ML and I animated it. So this is your animated greeting card for you to send out. Imagine you're doing this for Christmas, and I hope you guys could take the liberty to do something like this. It'll be nice and fun.
Awesome.
So back to the slides, some more examples. This is again using DALL-E 3. I try to create the similar style, right? So with the similar to the Midjourney, where we spoke about the seed, you have a similar concept in DALL-E, so you can create the similar sequencing. You know, I created this sample prompt. And I said, use the same seed as you did for the previous one, because I can now talk to this rather than copying the seed. So I said, use the same seed, and I generated the same image. So it has the same style, but it's a completely different image. So it has a similar mustache aspect and similar themes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of fun in this process. So we go through this cycle. I think that's pretty much all I have for today, unless you have questions and other things that we can go over.
So we're gonna stop.
Yeah. So